Good afternoon and welcome to CabWriter Comprehensive Part 7. Today we're going to do a lot of fix-up. We're not going to do it all because a lot of it is just simple SketchUp operations, native SketchUp operations having nothing to do with CabWriter, but I am going to do enough to show you some things that you need to know. Now I'm going to start right off the bat right here. I'm going to look underneath. And you will notice we don't want this dado to be showing. So what I'm going to do is we're going to edit that piece. I need to unlock it first and then edit it. And what I'll do is I'll just, probably the easiest thing to do, to draw a line from here to here, and then using the push-pull tool, I'll bring that up to here. And now the next thing I have to do is again use the push-pull tool and I'll edit this part. Bring that right out to there. Okay, that fixes that up. That looks like a nice, well-dressed trim. And now I want to go over to this guy here. We have to do a couple of things. One is we have to add some doors. And I want to show you something about adding doors. Let's do it the way we normally do, which is to take the rectangle tool, go from there to here, add a door, all right, so it touches more than one. You can see that we're at the moment touching this cabinet and this, so it's gonna, oh no, this one we're sharing this style here, and so I've got to select which cabinet I want this assigned to. Not that one. Yes. How many? I want 2. Okay, so what it's telling us is that CabWriter attempted to drill a shelf hole in a space or over an existing hole. And so when I think about this a moment, it dawns on me that I've drawn a lot of cabinets since I drew this one. And this one is a divided, it's a divided base. Let me get rid of this. This one's a divided base. And it's a fairly short divided base. My guess is that I'm trying to draw these doors in a cabinet whose defaults are not the same as what is currently in CabWriter settings. For instance, if I look at the base cabinets here, notice the divided base has a cabinet height of 90 inches. Well, that cabinet is definitely not 90 inches tall. And so what it tried to do was draw cabinet holes or shelf holes all the way up above where it was supposed to draw them in this cabinet, and realized it was drawing them in space. The fix is easy. Just use the undo tool a couple of times. One to get rid of the There we go. There we go, one to get rid of that. And we can keep the rectangle. And what I want to do now is select this cabinet and retrieve the cabinet defaults. Having done that, now look at the base cabinet. Look at the cabinet height, 49 5/8. So now it knows it can't go higher than that for the shelf holes, or higher than some number that fits within that cabinet design. So now let me try it and see what happens. By the way, the reason we have to wait so long for that is because it's taking this rectangle and going through every cabinet and trying to figure out what parts that rectangle touches, because it doesn't know anything about the cabinet. It's just a rectangle, doesn't know anything about the cabinet, so it actually has to go through all of the cabinets and every part in every cabinet to figure out what parts it's touching. So we say okay, we say no to that one, yes to that one, 2 doors. And there we go, no errors. And if we take the doors off, we see we got shelf holes in the appropriate place on both sides. Okay, so that's something you want to be a little careful of when doing doors. Make sure that when you add doors to a cabinet, that it's the cabinet's defaults that are loaded into the CabWriter settings. And if it's not, it's a simple matter of choosing any part on the cabinet and using the retrieve cabinet defaults. Okay, let's move on. By the way, while we're here, we notice that we're sharing a style here. We need to get rid of one of them. Well, the one we want to get rid of is the shorter one. So we simply unlock it and delete it. And there we go. Now the other thing we need to do, and I'm going to save this for a little later, is if you look, can't get a good view there. If you look here, these trim pieces on the toe kick overlap. We'll fix that up later when we do the toe kick, everything in the toe kick. We have some other things that are being shared, I believe, like right here. Remember this cabinet, in fact, let me select it. Is different from this cabinet. And we're sharing this style. We got to get rid of one of them. Well, the one we want to get rid of is not the one with the bevel cut, because we're going to need that. It's the other one. So we'll unlock it, delete it, and now we've got a face frame that makes sense. We probably have that situation over here. We do. We're sharing these. So we need to get rid of one. And the one we want to get rid of is that one. Unlock it, delete it. And let's see if we've got that problem anyplace else. We may or may not. I got to be careful. Let's take a good look. I think I got them all, but I'm not sure. We'll take a really good look later. I may look offline so I can spend time looking. But nonetheless, that's something you got to be careful of, that when you draw cabinets and you have styles overlapping, you got to get rid of one of them. All right. So we've got that fixed up. We've got that fixed up. Let's go over here and learn something about a new tool. And there's also something you have to be careful about with this tool. I want to add a back panel all around here. And I want to use the shape of this cabinet, in fact, to help me with that. So I'm going to do a couple of things. I'm going to cut this off right here. Let's take a look at the finished drawing. What we did here was we cut this off here, cut it off here, and then applied a back panel. The other thing we needed to do was to make this a bevel cut instead of a butt. And then we could add this on, and then we have to fix up the toe kick. So let's do all of that now. Let's go back to the other drawing. I'm going to edit this. I'll unlock it. Now this may be a problem. This one and this one are the same component. I may end up with a problem here, but we'll see what happens. And again, these are simple SketchUp issues, not necessarily CabWriter issues. But I'm going to create a line, a construction line here, just so I know what I'm doing. Use this tool, go from here to here, and with the push-pull tool, I'll go all the way down and get rid of that. Now the problem I created myself is, look what happened over here. Since they were the same component and I made this beveled edge, that beveled edge appeared here. Well, there's a couple ways I can do that. I can fix that, and I'll show you in a moment. Let's get out of edit component mode. Let's choose this. And let's look at its axis. Notice its red axis is in this direction. So I'm going to do two things. First, I'm going to flip it along its red, and then I'm going to flip it along its green. I don't want to change the axis. I just want to look at it. So I'm going to do this. All right, so now let's flip this part. I'm going to flip it along its red. That put this cut down here. Now I'm going to flip it along green. And now I have to move it. And now everything's fixed up. And let's get rid of this construction. Well, oh, that construction line I added when I was in edit component mode. So I've got to edit that component and get rid of that construction line. And then leave edit component mode. There we go. All right, so we got that fixed up. Now we know we want to add an end panel here, and the end panels are 13/16 wide. I'll show you that. They're the same as face frames or front panels. And so I need something here 13/16 out this way. And what I have to do is I have to bring this style out to meet that line. Just for fun, I'll make, that's the intersection I want to bring it out to. So I'm going to edit that component. Unlock it first. Edit component. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to select that line, take the top of it right there, and move it out there. Now there's a couple things I can do. Probably what the easiest thing to do is create a 45-degree line. Select this one, just the edge. Move that to here. Now I've got the bevel I want. All right. Now let me exit edit component mode here. I've got this line, whoops, got this guy, which is, I believe, 13/16, is that right? From here. I need one 13/16 from here. And I need one 13/16 from here. So now what I want to do is I want to go from this point down here to this point right there. And I want to make that a back panel. So I'll select it. Oh, the other thing, I want to decide how many panels I want here. And it looks to me like I probably want 2 panels. So what I'm going to do is we're going to go to the middle of this line, midpoint right there, and go down. So now what I've got is 2 rectangles, equal dimensions. I'm going to select this whole thing, and I'm going to say create a back panel. And it wants to know what I want to attach it to. And so I'm going to have to say cancel. Look at this and notice that it's C4L that I want to attach it to. So now I can go back to this and say panel C4L. The C has to be capitalized, the 4, and then L has to be capitalized. And I say OK. And it says, is this the cabinet that you wish to add the back panel to? And I'll say yes. Now this is telling me to examine my back panel and see if I got the results I wanted. And the answer is I didn't, because if I look at this very closely, that angle is backward. It says to remedy the situation, select the face and edges again. Oops. If you discover that it is reversed, the miters are reversed, after closing this dialog box, immediately select Undo. To remedy the situation, select the rectangle again and reverse the faces of the rectangle and then use the back panel tool again. So what we're going to do is hit Undo, select this, reverse faces so that it's dark, and now hit the rectangle tool again. C4L. It says, is this the cabinet you want to add it to? Yes. And now this time, notice I got what I want. All right. So now we'll do the same thing over here. Well, let's do this one first. Let's do this. And I'm going to start off with a dark face this time, see if that works a little better. C4L. I noticed I didn't start off with a dark face, so I'll back it up. There we go. C4L. Okay, now I got what I wanted, except I've got to fix up this joint here. The way this should work is this joint ought to come from here to here. So I have to fix up both of them. And let me wait until I do that over here because I'll have the same problem here. Now the question is, where do I want to go with this? Let me look at the original. And let's bring the wall in. Where I want to go with it is to where it hits the wall. So that was the east wall. The east wall. Let me bring that in the other view. Well, I don't have an east wall here yet. Let me go back and look at this and see if there's some other reference I can look at. Yes. It's going to be where this cabinet ends. So let me create a line there. Create a line right there. All right, so now I want to go from this point right here. Let me make sure we know which one we're talking about. This is 13/16 out, and this intersection here is between this and this. So now we want to get down here to this point. I got the dark face this time, so let's see if that works. I want to divide this again by 2. C4L. Yes. Okay. And so I got a number of things I have to fix up. Let's start with this one. We have to unlock it, edit component, and I'm going to select this line in here, that line right there. And I'm going to move it out along the red axis. I'm going to hold it on the red axis by using the right arrow key on the keyboard and select this point over here. That makes it a butt joint. That's what we want. Now we'll go over and do this one. Unlock it, edit component, select this line right in there. This time I'm going to move this point to that point. I'll edit this one, unlock it, edit component, select this line, move that over there. Okay, you don't need to see me do this one. I'm going to go offline. All right, I'm back and I fixed this up and I've gotten rid of all my construction lines. Now what we have to do, and I'm not going to do much of this online. In fact, I'm not going to do any of it online. I'm just going to show you what has to be done. Is we need to create, well, I'll show it to you in the other drawing. We need to create a toe kick and trim that look like this. Notice on the end panels, this toe kick comes in from the outside of the end panel to the outside edge of the trim is 1 inch. We want that to be the same all the way around here. We want there to be a 1 inch inset. The only place it's deeper is the toe kick in the front where it's 3 inches. But here it's 1. And all around back here it's 1. So what we have to do is we have to modify the toe kick for that. And we have to add a couple of parts, these two parts here. But you've seen me add parts before and you know how to add them using this tool, the rename component tool. So that's all SketchUp work. I'm going to do it offline before we start the next part 8. And I'll have that all done, but you should have no trouble doing that if you're a SketchUp user. All right. What else do we have to do? So we'll fix all that up. If we clear all the layers here and look at just the base ladder, we'll notice over here there's a lot of situations where we're overlapping the trim. Well, that's really easy. All we'd do is delete that piece, delete this piece, and extend this piece down to here. That cleans up that trim. We may have to do similar things over here. We got to clean all this up by, deleting one piece like this one, extending this one, and putting a bevel on it. That's simple. We may want to fix something up in here too. That's up to you, the cabinet maker. So I'm going to do all that offline. The one last thing I want to do online is if I take these doors off, one of the things the door tool doesn't do at the moment, it may someday, but it doesn't at the moment, is, let's take the base doors off. It created shelf holes, but it didn't create a shelf. Now, I want to create a shelf here and show you how to do that, because there's one little thing you have to know about. So one way to create a shelf is simply to start here in this corner. come out to this corner. And there's a face. Now, when we draw shelves in SketchUp, they usually have a gap on the sides of 1/16 of an inch. And I believe it's 1/8 of an inch front to back, 1/16 on the back and 1/16 on the front. However, what we do is we make sure every time we have a shelf, we draw it so that the back of the shelf is touching the back. This is very, very important. Whenever you draw a shelf, the back of the shelf has to touch the back. And the reason for that is for the automatic grain direction handling that SketchUp and Cutlist use requires that shelves touch the back. That way it can tell what the grain direction should be. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring this in 1/16 of an inch. And I'm going to bring the other side in 1/16 of an inch. Having trouble with my pointer here again. Bring that in 1/16 of an inch. The front, since I don't want 1/16 of an inch gap there, at least in the drawn space. In the real world there would be, but in drawn space I just want that to come back 1/8 of an inch. Now CabWriter does this automatically, but here you're drawing it yourself, and this is how you're going to do it. All right, so now I want to bring this up 3/4 and simply make it a component. Don't worry about the name. All right, now I'm not sure why that's I'm not sure what's going on here that yeah, this is sticking out the back. I'm not sure what I did wrong, but let me back up. I'm going to back all the way up. I'm not sure what I did wrong here. All right, I'm going to back all the way up. Something really got messed up there, and I'm not sure what. But I'll start here again. And rotate around here. Okay. Oh, I know what I did. I should have checked. I should have selected just the line and moved just the line back 1/16. Oh, make that 1/8. There we go. Now I'll select this line. That was a rookie mistake. 1/16. And now I'll check this line. Move it 1/16. And now with the push-pull, I'll give it the thickness it needs. Make it a component. Don't care about the name. And by the way, that one looks right now. I can see that line back there. All right, so now I've got it a component. This cabinet number is C13L. So with that, I'll select this part. I'll use the rename component tool. Type C13L here. I'm going to call this a shelf. And I'll call it shelf 1. Nope, not there. That's the component name description. Down here in component type, I'm going to, it's a box part. I think this is box 1. I'll check that. And this I'm going to call shelf 1. That's the instance name. So it's 13L B1 shelf. And I'm going to protect it. It says it has no dictionaries, which means there's no attributes in the Cutlass Bridge dictionary. So I'll add those. And if you don't know what they're supposed to be, you can always look at a shelf. Let's bring up the extended entity info. And then select the shelf in this cabinet that CabWriter drew. And it's a sheet good, maple plywood pre-finished, cabinet resizing, enable auto swap, shelf 1/4 inch. So let's just do the same here. It's sheet good, maple plywood pre-finished. Both of these. The reason we had to make sure that the shelf hit the back, touch the back, is so that this enable auto swap can work. And we're going to call it a shelf part and 1/4 inch. And it's protected. Okay. Now that I've got that, it's a simple matter of moving it into place and copying it. Moving it into place, we can do it a couple ways. One is, I'll just select this. That gives me a line over here and here. In both cases, that's the top of the shelf. So I'll come here. Pick this up to this along the blue axis, and I'll use the up arrow to lock it on the blue axis, and I'll pick this intersection point right there. And I'll do the same here. I'm going to use the control key to make it a copy along the blue axis. And again, pick that point. And so now I've got two shelves in there. The last thing I want to do is this is no longer shelf 1, it's shelf 2. I can change the instance name in here. I cannot change the component name in here. I've got to use this tool for that. But I can change the instance name. So I'll change this to 2. There we go. Okay, that's enough for today. I'll clean this up, and when we come back, I'm going to, in part 8, we're going to move on to the actual tools and some other things. I haven't shown you how to create a wall yet. We should have done that very first, but I wanted to get into cabinet drawing. But I'll show you how we should have started a new project with the wall tool. And until part 8, have a good day.